now. Today we hear the words passed down through generations from the book of Mark and Ephesians. Let us listen to these words of the Spirit. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James and Salome, bought spices so that they may go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. They had been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?" When they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side. They were alarmed, but he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You're just looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has been raised. He is not here. Look, there is the place they laid for him. But go tell his disciples, Peter, that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you'll see him just as he told you." So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them. They said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid.
For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not the results of works, so that no one may boast.
Hear what the Spirit is saying.
Thanks be to God.
Do you want to sit up here? You're more than welcome to sit up here. Or you can go back and have a seat with your folks. You want to sit up here? All right. You get to see the sanctuary from a completely different way by sitting up there. Please don't play the organ. So throughout this Lenten season, we have been working through a sermon series that we've called Trivial Pursuit, which is a play on the game that I'm sure many of us have played before, whether it was around tables or maybe you have been to a brewery or a bar where they have just stacks of Trivial Pursuit cards where you might ask trivia questions to one another. And this is a game of knowing the most trivia that you could possibly know. Everything, the topics include everything from literature to science to history to current events, as well as sports and leisure. The makers of this game that was made back in the 70s made this game, calling it Trivial Pursuit, because they thought it was a funny thing to have all of this knowledge in order to win this game. They thought it was trivial, a trivial pursuit in life to have all of this armchair knowledge, which is fun every once in a while if you find yourself scrolling through the apps, or dare I say, flipping through the channels, which is something we just don't do anymore, and you find yourself watching Jeopardy, and then you suddenly remember all of the countries from the Soviet bloc, things that we just don't remember anymore. But we've also been tying this in with the idea of us trying to attain perfection in life, and how sometimes that is also a trivial pursuit. Trying to be perfect in every single thing that we do, we sometimes can come up short, and how it stinks in the end when we do come up short. So we've talked about different types of pursuits where we tried to be perfect in things, like having the perfect work-life balance, having the perfect relationships, raising the perfect kid. We talked about failure and how that is also a part of our everyday life. Earlier in this Lenten season, Meredith and I were putting away the dishes out of the dishwasher, and as she was putting a bowl up on top of a shelf, the bowl slipped, fell, and hit the ground, cracking itself into 3 perfect pieces. Now, this wasn't a fancy bowl. This wasn't a special bowl. I'm sure we got it from Target on sale. But this bowl that we've been using for all kinds of different things was now broken and was no longer usable. Or is it? I found myself reflecting on some Japanese philosophy recently. I know you come to church on Easter and we're talking about Japanese philosophy. Hold on, walk with me. We're going to get there together, I promise. But within Japanese philosophy, there are a couple of different terms that I was starting to explore, and I want to explore with you today. The terms are wabi, sabi, and kintsugi. Now, I'm probably not the best person to share with you these Japanese terms, so I phoned a friend to help me out today. And here's what the friend had to say.
Hi everyone, happy Easter. Today I want to talk about 2 Japanese terms, actually 3. Wabi, sabi, and the art of kintsugi. Wabi is all about finding richness in the simple things, while sabi is about loving the beauty that comes with age. Basically, they show us that things don't have to be perfect to be absolutely beautiful. You can really see this vibe in kintsugi. Instead of hiding the cracks in broken pottery, we highlight them with lacquer. And it doesn't even have to be gold. Silver or colored lacquer work just as well to celebrate the object's history. A break isn't the end of the road. It's just the start of a new chapter. Those scars become a unique kind of strength. It's such a gentle way to embrace imperfection, don't you think? I hope we start seeing the beauty in the imperfect things around us too. Hi.
Nori is a good friend of ours who, for years, helped out with our children's Christmas pageant every single year. He was also our paparazzi, taking pictures of everything that was going on within the life of the church. He and his wife, Karen, moved to Japan a few years ago, and he sends his love today. He says the cherry blossoms in Japan are done blooming in Tokyo, but where he lives in Sapporo, they still have a couple more weeks left to go. He gives thanks for each and every one of you, and it's a reminder that we are a church that is connected across all different time zones to be able to call and reach out to friends. So we have these Japanese terms here, the wabi, the sabi, the kintsugi, these ways of understanding life and understanding the things that are there in front of us. The wabi of seeing the simplicity in things in life. The sabi, which is seeing how things get older, there is still beauty within them. And then this ancient way of repairing pottery, kintsugi, which means gold joinery, where you think you have lost something, but when it gets put back together, something more beautiful comes out of it. For many of us, seeking perfection is the only way to go about life. to be perfect in everything that we do, so that if we don't do that, we feel like less of a person. We feel like we missed the mark. We feel like we didn't live up to its full potential. Striving to do good within this world, striving to be great at something, is a good thing to do. But is perfection at the end something that we can attain each and every day? Or is there something more beautiful about living life to its fullest and seeing what's created afterwards? With the advent of smartphones, we now have a camera in our pockets everywhere we go, right? We capture pictures in all the different places that we can go, from our food that we eat, to the Easter egg hunts that we go to the family pictures that'll be happening after worship today. How far we've come from the days of roll film. Now, I know for some of our young people here, you don't know what film is. But the grain that was in that film, the splotches, the imperfection that you couldn't really see what the picture looked like until after you took it to the development and then had it printed and shared with you. While the pictures that we take with our phones today are almost crystal clear, and if we happen to have a zit that day, we can just clean that right on up, can't we? Within the pictures that we take, we try and seek to have that perfection with each shot that we take. But there's something about looking at old photographs of our family members, of our grandparents, our great-grandparents. Looking at pictures when we went to prom, to remind us what we looked like when we were young. And even though the light might not have been right, or we might have been a little blurry in there, we see the beauty in those pictures because they remind us of what we once were. That even though at the time we might not have thought we looked all that good, boy, did we look good. They take us back to a time that was different. And this only comes with age. That we see the real beauty in what once was. In the passages that our young people read for us this morning, it is the Easter story. It is the story of Jesus being resurrected, of absolute chaos at the time, because the women who came to greet Jesus that day had no idea what was going on. They were scared and afraid. Quite a change from a week ago when, as they entered into Jerusalem waving palms, they were excited about what was in store for them. But something happened that week. Something happened that week that they didn't expect, that caught them off guard. This person who they would later call the Christ, Jesus, who they thought was perfect, who was going to lead them in a new way, who was going to be the new king for everything, was not there. But there was an empty tomb. And as we continue to read on to these stories, there is a gift within this empty tomb. You see, because we are not cross people. We are not people who are called to live on the cross each and every day. We are a resurrected people. A people who see that there is possibility in life, that death does not have the final word, and that goodness is possible for each and every one of us, even in a world that sometimes feels like it is broken. that all people are at odds with one another. What the empty tomb teaches us is that there is hope. And it comes in the most unexpected of places. In the second passage, we're in the book of Ephesians, which is a letter that's written to the town of Ephesus in Turkey. And within this letter, Paul is writing to people who are trying to understand where all the good is within this world and what they need to do in life in order to receive God's love. And all Paul says is to have faith in these tough times. You don't need to pray a certain way. You don't need to dress a certain way. You don't need to stay at church for the full hour. Please stay for the full hour. We've got communion today. It's the faith that you have. The faith in the unbelievable that binds you back together with God. I think this is where kintsugi comes in. Because for many of us, when we try to attain perfection in our lives, whether it's our work lives, our relationships, how to raise children, or how to even start a project, there is nothing more scary than when you're trying to start a project and you have something in your mind about how you want it to look, and you get so frustrated because it's not going the same way that you want to throw up your hands and quit. Seeking the perfection out there is hard to do. Trying to be perfect in all things is downright impossible. So there will be times in your life when you fall short of your expectations and other people's expectations. That doesn't mean we give up. That's where we start to recognize who we are and how God is here to help us. I mean, think of a broken plate or a broken bowl that's fallen on the ground. If you were to pick it up, you would see jagged edges along the sides of those broken pieces. You wouldn't find anything smooth. Nothing's been buffed out. There are tough parts along those cracks. In the art of kintsugi, when you start putting that lacquer and that gold on those two parts, it's easier for the jagged parts to grab back together because of that resin that's there. God's grace is that lacquer. It is that resin. It is that gold that binds us back together, that grabs us at our sharpest, hardest, most ungrabbable parts, pulling us back together within ourselves, reminding us that we are not broken, but beloved. So that when we are formed back together again, the cracks are still there. The cracks are part of who we are, but we are together. We are whole. And we still have use left in our lives. This resurrection story that we hear each and every year is a reminder that we too are forgiven. We too are bound together. And while we are not perfect, we still have much left in this world to do. The bowls that are repaired within kintsugi are done in such a way that they are not just art, but they are still fully usable. You can still pour liquid into them and it won't leak out. That's who you are. Still bound together. Still holding on to all of the good that's within this world so that you can be an object that shows that same grace to others. So I know that there's pain when we fail, when we lose a job, when there's a relationship that we've put so much into, but it doesn't work out. When our kids don't perform up to our expectations. When we worry too much about a project that's in front of us that we're paralyzed to get started. It's important for us to remember that those are part of us, but they don't define us. It's how we're used after those experiences. That God continues to remind us that we are a resurrected people. It's when we use ourselves to go out and to teach others about our experiences. To remember the past and how grainy it was, but how far we've come since then. And to know that in the most simplest of moments, good things can happen. So, resurrected people, this week, I encourage you to know that there is gold painted all over you. That God's grace is there to hold you together. To remind you that the perfections that we seek are only come together because the love of Christ was here for us. So that you can go into the world and share that with others. To let others know that they're not their biggest mistakes, but there is good within them as well. So that we can carry this Easter message in all the places that we go. Amen.